what does it mean to be a clinician founder? That's the question I've really been in search of. So for the OGs of this podcast, it's been around since it used to be called the Medic Side Hustles podcast. And the idea was there's medics doing a lot of things on the side beyond just clinical work. What are those stories about? And how are they eventually reaching a point where they make medicine their side hustle? So the thing that drives them, the thing that brings them the money, the income, the freedom, the agency, and the ability to kind of say, I don't have to do clinical work if I don't want to, is kind of what I thought making medicine your side hustle would be about. And so over the last 2 seasons, we've had a bunch of really interesting conversations. And I'm super keen to be bringing you season 3 of the Clinician Founder podcast now. In fact, I'm 4 or 5 episodes in already in terms of recording, so you can expect an episode coming out every week. And if you've been thinking about what it means to be a clinician founder, that's what I want to kind of talk to you about. Looking back at season 1 and 2, I've had, for example, Ellie Scott Cray, the doctor who became a barista. She was on my podcast twice, once just exploring that absolute unknown of what it's like to do something just not medical, not a structured kind of role or position. And what do you do if you've left medicine and then become a barista? Where do you go from that? The most recent post I've seen from her is fantastic. She's gotten a non-executive director role as a result of her passion for speaking about ADHD from personal experience. And her story when she was on this podcast was such a good reminder that sometimes the biggest asset that you have, the easiest asset that you can build, isn't a fancy website, isn't a SaaS platform, isn't something vibe coded. It's literally just your voice. It's the words in your mind. How well can you articulate your experiences into something meaningful? And that in itself can be enough to transform somebody else's world and to improve working conditions in a company, for example, can be enough to bring people a feeling of hopefulness in the world. And that's something that Ellie has done so fantastically. She started writing about her experience of medicine, burnout, ADHD, and the identity shift that goes with it. And that opened up loads of conversations for her. And Ali Jaffe, for example, she's amazing and really amazing on social media. Many of you must be following her. Her story about how NutriTank came about and how she reached a point where she was working with the likes of Jamie Oliver was such a fantastic story to get into. And what sticks with me from her conversation was this concept of having an identity capital. So she really talked about what does identity capital mean? What does it mean to build an identity capital? And how do you use it? How do you leverage it? How do you bring your whole self to work? And how do you let your real, true, unique self, with all your flaws included, actually be something that opens up opportunities for you and works to your advantage? So it's your clinical experience, yes, but it's also your values, your story, your personality, your curiosity, and the things that make people remember and trust you for who you are. And then there was this guest episode with Brendan McAdams, where we got into the nitty-gritties of really launching a healthcare pilot. Why do so many projects and ideas get stuck in that pilot stage despite so much hard work? And the thing he said was that nobody buys a pilot, they buy a result. And that really transformed the way I work with my clients as well. And it's really helped me understand the need to have the conversation of what happens after this pilot. What are we doing this pilot for? We're not doing this pilot to prove to you or me that this is possible. We need to make a decision of whether this product is even something you would buy. And if you would buy this product or invest in this service, then a pilot is kind of like a trial period to say, actually, before we get into a long-term relationship, let's date a little. Let's experience what that's like. And that's really stayed with me. And so as these stories are happening, this idea of, initially what was Medic Side Hustles became the Clinician Founder podcast, because I realized that the story of the people that really needs to be told, the ones that I love getting into, are clinician founders and people who've built something in this world and people who've brought something to life. As Declan Kelly, the founder of Olus Medical, he spoke about the importance of clarity, the clarity on product market fit, but also product business model fit and where your model or your idea kind of fits into this world. And just as raw experience of taking a real frustration in life to something meaningful out there, and something that's valuable and something we all look up to and now have in our pockets. Like every hospital I know has OLAs, and to go to that level and be able to hear the humility behind the challenges was absolutely fantastic and inspiring. And we kind of went back to the idea of ideas, really. We went back to the idea of ideas and where they come from and how often they stem from frustration, and how frustration and anger is really such a motivated state. It often feels like it keeps you stuck, but that's the time when you really know, when you have the emotions of anger and frustration, that's when you know that there's something that you want to do about this. And to convert that frustration into an idea is really where this journey begins. And so as we're now entering season 3, what's sticking out for me is the fact that being a founder really means founding an idea, founding a change. And in reality, it means taking your idea and bringing it to life. Because there's lots of people with ideas, there's lots of people frustrated with the current situation. But to become a founder means to really take that idea and bring it to life. And in this season, I want to get into what those challenges are like. What is that all about? What hurdles do people come across and how do we overcome them? So when I look back at these conversations, there's a few patterns. Ellie showed us voice. Ali showed us movement. Brendan showed us adoption. Declan showed us infrastructure. And Jamie Gross, who came on this podcast, talked about the frustration leading to ideas, taught us how lived experience can become purpose. And so in season 3, we're going to get into the messy middle, right in the middle of everything being literally quite messy. So we've just adopted cats about a month ago, and they're the most beautiful, most amazing pair of cats. But getting used to them has been a big change. ARCP season's coming up. Some of you might have heard about my deep rabbit hole dive into the world of AI. And one of the things out of that has been an ARCP prep aid AI agent. There's been a company called Ask Portia, which I now have a YouTube channel about, and I'm kind of building in public as an AI agent that helps you manage your e-portfolios. I think that's going to be fantastic. Another idea that's been amazing has been agents for doctors. So again, AI agents, I'm big on that. And while I'm heading into AI and digital on one end, the other side of me really wants to create a community and bring people together and have a space where we can meet and learn from each other and have conversations that really are human. And it's amazing how AI is enabling me to do more non-digital stuff in the real world. And I'm super excited to kind of bring that forward. And I guess one of the first things I should let you know about is the fact that clinicianfounder.com is now live. If you're listening to this, it's probably still a beta test page, but you can get there. The idea is that you land and you see the word Clinician Founder everything. I want it to be everything a clinician needs to bring their meaningful ideas to life. So you've got inspiration of this podcast being hosted there, but you've also got tools and resources. We're soon going to have some mentors, and eventually it's going to also lead to a community platform. And that's in the works in the next coming few months. So I want to create a space for people to be able to gather in their own time, given the constraints of us all being clinicians. But the value in the human-to-human connection is what I want to foster. So stay tuned. I'm going to keep telling you about that as this season progresses. But in the messy middle of all of this is where I want to hear about the messy middle of other clinician founders. What did they go through? What did they learn? And I'm already excited to bring you some of the amazing conversations we've had. I've got a GP working on an education exam prep platform. I've got the amazing Dr. Sharif, who's got an MBE for her work and is now a clinician founder as well. I've just had a fantastic conversation with Tiernan yesterday, and those are just a few of the names that you're going to be listening to in this season of the Clinician Founder podcast. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a follower. Drop your comments below. I'd love to get to know you, hear what you enjoy, leave your questions for the guests, and I'd love to kind of get them answered for you. And I want to make this your favorite podcast out there. So if you've enjoyed it so far and you think there's a friend who might enjoy it as well, go ahead and forward it to them. Make sure you follow so that you're getting all of the notifications. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Take care. And don't give up on that idea yet.